Ah, hello there, and welcome back to the next part in our Jam Network guitar tutorial series. My name is Charlie, and I still have the sun in my eye. And today, I'd like to talk to you and teach you about what is, in my opinion, one of the most important ideas, concepts in music, and what you might call music theory, although you don't need to go there. But and I'd like to relate that to an exercise on the guitar because it's very, very important. So let's take the note C. We can play that note in many, many different places on the fretboard. So those are all C's. So is that. Different octaves, but they're all C's. Okay? Now, C exists on the fretboard in many different areas, but there's also other notes. Now, what exactly is C's relationship to every other note? C sharp, D flat, for example, or D, or G. It has relationships to all of these notes. Now, one of the ways that we measure uh, these this relationship from not just C but to every note is what is called in Western music theory intervals. Now, what is an interval? Well, we have C here, and then we have C sharp, D flat, right next door. And in the 12 tone equal temperament tuning system, which is what the guitar, which is what exists in the guitar, C sharp, D flat is the next note besides C. That distance between C and C sharp, D flat can be measured by what is called an interval, a specific name that we've given it. Same with C to D. You notice that C to D is 2 away on the fretboard. So for example, we have on the first fret B string a C, and then on the third fret B string we have a D. So you jump 2, and you get to the next, you get to the D. Now that interval happens to be called a major second, but you don't necessarily need to know that for this drill we're going to do. Okay, so let's pick that interval of 2 away. Okay, if we're on D now and we go 2, we get to E, and so on to F sharp, to G sharp, A sharp, and then back to C, funny enough. Okay, so that interval is called a major second. And so this drill we're going to do is called interval. We can call it a lot of things. We can call it um, interval, in, isolate the interval. I like that. I like that alliteration. We can call it isolate the interval, meaning that we are playing a specific interval over and over again all around the fretboard. So let's play a major second interval, which is just 2 away. Okay, I'm going to go all around the fretboard playing that major second interval. So let's do this, up and down. So that major second interval, if you just play it with no other intervals, it actually makes a scale, and that scale is called the whole tone scale. And if you notice in a lot of movies or TV shows where the character is going off in a dream, let's say Garfield, for example. Garfield dreams a lot, and so when Garfield goes off in that dream, you'll hear that kind of like that, something like that. The whole tone scale is very much used for that, but what we're doing is we're isolating that major second interval and we're just practicing that specific interval. And what it does is it teaches the guitar player how to get from string to string, from area to area in that interval. Um, and and that exercise of just with that same interval is really is for beginners because we want to learn how to get from the bottom E string to the A string using the interval. So right there, know exactly how to get from string to string using an interval, and it can come in handy a lot because sometimes we want to play a specific interval, and if you don't know how to, then you wouldn't know how to. So that same concept of moving around the fretboard with the same interval applies to all the different intervals. So C to D sharp E flat is called a minor third. It's a 3 away from each other, and if you play that everywhere, ooh, I feel like I'm talking to the devil. That is a diminished. That is a diminished scale. So I'm not going very fast right now, and it's because maybe I don't do this drill enough. But I'm going to isolate all my different intervals, and I'm going to practice that. So, for example, set a minute timer and play with a metronome, and and for a minute with a metronome, just so I have my foot stomping, right? Just play that, let's say minor third interval, but any interval. Until you feel very, very comfortable going all throughout the fretboard, okay? So that is for beginners, and go very slowly, and then go very slowly if you're a beginner, and then move up faster and faster. Once you feel comfortable with that, there are two things that you can do to make this more complicated. One of them is while you're playing, let's say we're going with a minor third interval, while you're playing it, I want you to shout out loud, or not shout, but say out loud what interval what note you are playing every time you play a note. So, for example, E, G, B flat, C sharp, E, G, A sharp. It gets really difficult, and you have to go slowly. And what it does is it gives you that knowledge of where every note is on the fretboard when you practice it enough, because you have to think every time you play a note, what note is that? And that makes it a lot harder, but it also makes your brain open up to all the different patterns on the fretboard. So that's one thing you can do to make it harder. And the second thing you can do is not isolating an interval anymore, but making a pattern of intervals. So for example, I'm going to have my pattern be minor third, major second, minor second, which in other terms is 3-2-1. So then I'm going to start anywhere. I'm going to go, so minor third, major second, minor